It's okay for us to give 200 billion to the Ukraine without any congressional oversight, mind you. But if they decide to give money to their ally, the charter member of BRICS, any aid that would ever benefit the Russian war machine, like ours isn't, then not only will their companies be sanctioned and their banks, but Beijing itself. And you can't do this. You can't go around the world when they view us as being hypocritical, first and foremost. And as the world reserve currency, you're supposed to remain neutral. And now you're beginning to see it spread even further quietly. I think it was Representative Mooney that asked the Fed, tell us all the countries that have been pulling gold out of the New York Fed. And for whatever reason, even under the Freedom of Information Act, they haven't provided it. I did just read an article where Nigeria, South Africa, Ghana, Senegal, Cameroon, Algeria, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia have all withdrawn their gold reserves from the United States.
Today, we delve into the alarming revelations shared by Andy Schectman. Recent data suggests that Nigeria, South Africa, Ghana, Senegal, Cameroon, Algeria, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia have withdrawn their gold reserves from the United States. Schectman highlights the growing global dissatisfaction with U.S. policies, particularly regarding sanctions and asset confiscations. He underscores Russia's actions, confiscating U.S. assets and redirecting funds to adversaries. These developments signal a potential shift away from the U.S. dollar as the world reserve currency.
And when you talk Saudi Arabia, well, that should resonate with people. What do you think this means? They understand that after all, gold has no counterparty risk. What are we leaving it in New York for when this is the country that is proven that if you do not line up their way, if you do not align ideologically, well, not only will you get your funds sanctioned, but in the case of Russia, now confiscated and used to give to the foe of the country they are fighting, the country that we are aiding, the country that we are providing, billions of dollars in military aid to, and providing all sorts of, technical assistance and weaponry. But that's okay, but you can't do it. Well, that's pissed off a good portion of the world. There is no question about it. You're now beginning to see Pakistan, who has formally applied to BRICS. Now they're being threatened with sanctions if they decide to follow through and build the pipeline with Iran between the two countries for oil. And all of these things that are happening, the world is growing very tired of it. And this is the rallying cry, if you will, that is bringing everybody together. No question about it. And it isn't ending. And the worst part about it is the way that it comes across as being completely hypocritical. That many of the things that we are doing arguably are no worse than any of the things that we're sanctioning other countries for. Maybe they are actually worse. And, that's debatable. But the point of it is, it shouldn't be for us to decide. We should not be the judge and the jury and the hangman. And I think it will very quickly accelerate the ultimate end game of de-dollarization as these countries realize that, not only are they broke and insolvent, and in 5.5 years, all of their discretional income will have to be borrowed, or discretional spending, which includes military. They're a country that's completely and totally broke and is going around borrowing money they don't have to lend to other countries that they think is okay to lend to, but telling everyone else who they can and can't lend to. I mean, even Janet Yellen said for China to export their way out of this, their financial problems is just unacceptable to the global economy, with a weak yen. I mean, all of these things that we want to go around, our leaders, and impose are going to have consequences. And the question is, are they intended or unintended? That's debatable. Is this too stupid to be stupid? Is it planned? Or do we just have incompetence? But the worst possible thing you can do from a country that the world views as being hypocritical is to sanction in a holier than thou manner. Yeah, it's just, you can't make it up.
With the U.S. government amassing a staggering $6.2 trillion in debt in just a year, Schectman highlights the rapid decline in financial stability. He highlights the troubling practice of manipulating economic data, eroding trust in the system. Schectman also criticizes proposed policies like taxing unrealized gains, which he deems anti-capitalistic. As businesses struggle and investors flee traditional assets like commercial real estate, the fallout from these policies becomes clearer. Schectman notes a growing shift towards alternative investments like gold, driven by fears of counterparty risk. He warns that these actions could set off a chain reaction of economic repercussions both at home and abroad.
100%. I mean, it is 100%. And then you look at it and you say to yourself, this is a country where if we were to spend $100 every second of every single day, it would take almost 2,000 years to equal the 6.2 trillion the government has spent in just the last 12 months. And that's all been borrowed. We're accumulating $1 trillion of debt every 100 days or less. That's like $100,000 a second. And, you got a corrupt political system in charge. You have manipulation of the news. If our statistics don't look good, like unemployment or inflation, just change them. We'll just adjust the metrics. We're a country that in many respects has lost its bearing, and this is not lost on the rest of the world. We've talked at length about all the other things that is happening here in this country. It's not lost on the rest of the world. And so, yeah, I think by sanctioning, you are only incentivizing, you are creating a rallying cry, you are telling all of these countries, this is your chance to find safety in numbers. And you would think that they would understand that, which is why I feel that this is almost too stupid to be stupid, that it just seems like it's happening. It's real. And as my buddy Chris Irons says, they're here they are trying to tax unrealized gains, right, on people who are making big bucks, like over 100 million a year. Well, these are the people that create all the jobs. These are the people that can pick up and say, screw off. I left Minnesota because it lost its mind, right? And that was a big deal for me. Come to Florida. These are the people that will pick up shop and leave the United States. And before they do that, they will sell everything they have in NVIDIA and in Bitcoin and in all of these assets that have unrealized gains to float an idea of taxing unrealized gains as about as un-American as you could ever get. It's as uncapitalist as you could ever get. And it will destroy the markets. And more than anything, it will make these people leave. And then when these people leave and pull with it all of the business that they were creating, the industry that they were creating, who's going to fill that vacuum? And it's just like the commercial real estate that we see. Listen to some of these numbers on commercial real estate real quick. I know that's not what you asked me, but it's all part of a bigger picture. Let me just show you these numbers. They're absolutely scary as hell. There were 625 commercial real estate foreclosures in March, up 117% from the year before. I'm just going to give you 3 of them to give you an idea. And this is kind of the same thing when you talk about the sanctions and the ramifications of people leaving the system. It's the same thing that's happening in the cities. The former One AT&T Center, which 44 stories, the 3rd largest building in St. Louis, sold for $205 million in 2006, just sold for $3.6 million. It sold for $205 million in 2006. Holiday Inn Express in Washington, D.C., debt owed to the lender. The lender was the only bidder for the foreclosure. The lender. And they bid $18.5 million for it and won it. It was originally sold for $83.5 million just a few years ago. And the last one, Blackstone sells NYC office building at a $420 million haircut. $185 million they bought it for. Blackstone paid sold it for, paid $605 million plus millions in renovations in 2014. It's all the same thing. You push things too far, and the consequences, in this case, what happens to the cities and the lenders when all the commercial real estate goes belly up. But what happens when you chase everyone out because of your sanctions? They move away from the dollar. Big problems. You chase out the people because of unrealized capital gains and raising capital gains tax to 44.5%, you're going to blow things up and chase people away. The consequences of our politicians, whether it be by weaponizing the dollar or destroying the dollar or just allowing our inner cities to be destroyed, they're all the same problem in a different shirt. And that is the consequences are people will leave. And that's what's going to happen with the big money. That's what's going to happen with the people that have been accepting dollars for all of these years. They're not going to anymore. And that's why you see them all dumping treasuries and buying gold, because it has no counterparty risk. And that's what's putting the floor under the price of gold, as the public in this country has been selling into the rally and selling their ETFs going down at a 45-degree angle, even though Bill Holter thinks a lot of that is share redemptions. That's why the money's leaving the ETFs. I think a lot of it is that there's just not enough belief by the public that gold and silver are the place to be. Instead, Nvidia and Bitcoin are much sexier. You trigger a law like this where unrealized gains are taxed, it's game over. Just like it is when you start to weaponize the dollar across the globe by a country that is viewed as being incredibly hypocritical, and rightfully so. They're going to leave, and there are consequences to pay. So whether it's in the inner cities or the dollar around the globe, the same thing is true. You mess with things the way that we are, and there will be consequences for sure.
As we close, let's recap Andy Schectman's key points. From the staggering $6.2 trillion debt amassed by the US government in just a year, to concerns over manipulated economic metrics and proposed policies like taxing unrealized gains, the economic landscape is fraught with challenges. Businesses facing closures and investors turning to alternatives like gold highlight the urgency for action. Schectman warns of a potential global economic fallout. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share your thoughts below.